the problem with the manufacturing industry is seeing, especially in the state of Georgia, is workforce development. There are scholarships in Georgia offered to high school students going into college or secondary education that Georgia will pay for them to go to school if they're majoring in certain majors to increase workforce development, especially within the field of manufacturing. So that's just an honor. Every time I get to speak to a student, they're like, I had no idea. And they're sitting there stressed thinking, okay, well, this is what I can do. I can't afford college, I can't do this. I'm like, well, no, you have this opportunity. Take advantage of it. Use the creativity, use the skills that you have, love your passion, and go for it.
Welcome to IndustrialSage, a free video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is IndustrialSage.
All right, hey, so let's jump into today's episode. I've got Miss Georgia here, Annie Jorgensen. Annie, thank you, or Miss Georgia. Thank you so much.
You can call me Annie, it's okay.
Okay, Annie's okay. I just want to make sure you get it right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on IndustrialSage.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, absolutely. Are you kidding me? So, so for those who don't know, all right, so you are Miss Georgia. Tell me a little bit about, who you are. Besides that, I think we've covered that a little bit, but that and the whole Miss Georgia thing, really, that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. So, I'm Annie Jorgensen. I'm Miss Georgia 2018, and I'm actually almost near the end of my year. So you get the title for 1 year. All right. And I won June 15th of 2018. Today is June 3rd, I think, 4th maybe. So I get it for 2 more weeks, and then I'll pass down the title. But a lot of people don't know that Miss Georgia actually is a full-time position. And so I'm an employee of the Miss Georgia organization, which is a part of the Miss America organization. Okay. And so all year long, I've been able to travel all around the state of Georgia doing multiple things. And I like to think that my job has 4 or 5 different pillars. The first one is it's required to have a platform or a social impact initiative as a title holder that you work your year to promote or advocate for. And that can be anything from a nonprofit organization, or for me, what I did is I created my own program. And so I saw the need for self-confidence building, especially in young girls. And so I developed a program called #IGotThis. And so I've partnered this year with the Girl Scouts of the USA and developed a self-confidence patch program. So they can earn, Girl Scouts everywhere, all around the country, can earn their confidence patch.
Oh, that's awesome.
While they are building their self-confidence. I love it. So I work a lot with the Girl Scouts. I do a lot of school visits, a lot of speaking engagements with my program. And I also work with Children's Hospital, especially in the Atlanta area. They do such great work. The Children's Miracle Network Hospitals is the national platform, the national program, partnered with the Miss America program. So all title holders throughout the country work with their local hospitals. Right. And I also work with the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance.
Okay, I'm going to hold you there for 2 seconds. Yes. All right, you also work with the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance. So for those who are wondering, okay, wait, why do we have Miss Georgia on IndustrialSage? What's the connection here? Right. Because, you were working with the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance. So I just wanted to stop and pose it out. There is a reason, right?
Yes, it makes sense.
It does make sense. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and so I figured when I took on the position of Miss Georgia, I'm technically an ambassador to the state. And so how can I best serve the state? And I figured, this was way back in probably around August, September, I was thinking of how can I spend a full-time position, it's a lot of time to fill, how can I best promote what Georgia's about and what Georgia's like? And I figured the best way is to show what Georgia has to offer and what's made in Georgia. And that's when one of my family members, my aunt, actually had a connection with the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance. And so she introduced me to Jason Moss, who's the CEO of GMA, and we just kind of got chatting, and it was a very inspirational conversation that we had. And with my background from graduating with a degree in journalism from the University of Georgia, I knew I wanted to use my media skills in some way this year. And in talking with Jason, the problem with the manufacturing industry is seeing, especially in the state of Georgia, is workforce development. And so for me, I work a lot with students, and I can bring kind of a pop culture edge into a school or into an industry. And so bringing the Miss Georgia title into the field of the industry of manufacturing, we kind of are working together to incorporate and to hopefully improve workforce development, especially within middle school, high school age students.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And that's such a critical thing. Like you mentioned, there's such a huge challenge right now with that. And it's just, maybe the manufacturing industrial's got a bad rap, or from the branding perspective, it's like, you know what, gosh, I don't want to work in this because it's dirty, and I don't feel like I want to work in the cool tech companies and whatever, And I will say the reality of it is, like, what is going on in manufacturing is awesome. It's incredible if you really think about like all the different innovations, and then especially when you look at this whole, I'm geeking out here,
no, I love
on the
it.
whole like digital transformation that's happening, and you look at from a supply chain standpoint, logistics, and you've got robots, and you got like all this stuff going on that's super cool. And I think it's awesome you're able to help to kind of shine a little bit of a light, like use that ability to, this year that you have, to be able to help bring that to other people and say, like,
it really
you need to look
cool.
at this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because initially when I was thinking the manufacturing industry, I was like, okay, first of all, no one in the manufacturing industry is going to care about Miss Georgia. I was like, they're going to be like, this girl, just whatever. And so, and honestly, on my side, I kind of envisioned the manufacturing industry being the stereotype, that it's dirty, you just kind of work in, put in your hours, and you leave. But after touring multiple different manufacturing plants throughout the state, I'm just blown away at the intelligence level that it takes, the creativity that different people can come in and work together, the collaboration between all different facets of a company. And so for me, I was walking into this industry with fresh eyes. And so when I get to go into schools and say, no, I had no idea, but my mind is so wide open now. There are so many opportunities. If you're creative, if you want to work with technology, if you want to work in STEM, you can do that within the field of manufacturing.
Absolutely. So, all right, you did. How many tours did you? Because so we've had Jason on the show before, and so if they're, a lot of our audience are not familiar, or they should be familiar with the GMA. We bring them up a lot. And we absolutely love them, and so we've gone on a lot of tours. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great organization in the state of Georgia. I know IndustrialSage audience, they're people all over the world, but here in Georgia we got this great organization. They have all kinds of tours and educational events. Yep. So I know I saw that you were doing like a ton of them.
Right.
What was your favorite one, or one of the favorite?
That's really tough. Honestly, okay, so we toured the Kia plant in West Point, Georgia.
Right,
and Kia is also a sponsor of the Miss Georgia organization.
Okay.
And so for the whole year, I've been driving a Kia Sorento. His name is George. I love him so much. But so getting to walk in and see the plant, and I have never seen a workforce that is more excited to be at work. They're happy.
Really?
We rode around the plant on a golf cart because it's huge.
Yeah,
and so we got to see all different areas of it. And literally, I kid you not, every single person we rode past, they were waving to us. They were saying, "Welcome to Kia." They were just so happy.
Interesting.
And and they were just releasing the new Telluride that released in February, I think, right around
that awesome Super Bowl commercial.
Yes, it was so great, so emotional.
Yeah.
But we got to see I think it was one of the first ones to come off the line, and so it was really, really amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So you've been doing this for the better part of the last year, right?
Right.
What are a few things that you've, like, some takeaways that you've had, like some key things, like, hey, I didn't know about this, or
I never knew the way that artificial intelligence or smart technology could be implemented within a manufacturing plant. And I want to say it was a few weeks ago, we were at World Emblem on the other side of Atlanta.
What do they do? Because I'm not familiar with that.
So they do like labeling, so like name tags, it's their emblems, so they can put logos on anything.
Okay, got it.
Right,
okay,
I guess I should have explained.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so we were walking in, and the way that they use their technology is to say, so what they were doing initially is that they were doing every order, say for a name tag, say you had 50 names that you had to be printed. They would do every name individually by color.
Okay, yeah.
I can't remember if this is right. But they were doing it by color, and then they switched it to if a company had like 4 Marks and 3 Ashleys or something. So instead of doing it by the color, they would do it by name.
Okay. Yeah.
And so then that way it made it more efficient. They were able to do more output per hour.
Oh, for having to change things out. And
yes, and just the systematics that they had of just figuring out how to make it most efficient, most productive, to be able to have people working more stations at the same time.
Yeah.
It was just really incredible to see the innovation.
That's awesome.
And it was even more incredible to see the leadership of the company walk through the floor of the plant, talking to the employees, using their names. They knew exactly who they were. They knew their families.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anytime an employee had a thought, a suggestion of saying, this could improve what I do, this would make my life easier, or this would make me more productive, they listened, and if it worked, and they believed in it, they would implement it. So having that kind of dialogue that's open is really incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. You talk about AI and all these different technology. I think one of the a really cool tour that we took on that I was completely blown away was Scientific Games. So they're literally just up the road from us. So
wow.
I'm not sure, were you on that one?
I didn't get to go on that one.
So Scientific Games, for those who aren't familiar, basically the lottery printing so they handle just over here. They handle I think 80% of the world's lottery games or something like that.
Wait, we got to find a connection in there and figure out which tickets to buy.
Right. Well, that was the big thing, and that's where I think it was. Their process was crazy. Each of these things go through. It's a 20-step printing process, or 30, and just that was one of the number one questions. Okay, well, which one's the which one? But it was really interesting to see how they how you come up with that. Interesting fun fact they told us is they actually on the big games they actually overprint I think you're only supposed to have, 3 winners per run or something like that.
Sure.
And they actually end up there's double or whatever.
Wow.
Because of production runs and stuff like that. And then they've got some smart way the system knows okay, this batch somewhere in this crate there's one of the fake winners or whatever, so they pull it out and they destroy it, goes into an incinerator and and because that was a big thing. It's how do you? But it's just amazing all the technology and how it all works. There's always UV lighting flashing things, and had to wear special glasses. Hopefully there weren't any epileptics and because it was, anyways. But it was
very high tech,
super interesting.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Crazy. I just it's interesting. I just have such a I can't do a whole lot with my hands, so I'm not painting and doing all this stuff. Building something is not me. Whatever. I'm not your stereotypical Mexican. Yeah, I went there I don't like cutting my grass. I don't like painting. I'm not good at it. And so to be able to see people that come in and can engineer all these things and come up with these ideas and then boom, wow, it's impressive.
It really
super
is.
impressive.
It really is.
So, and it's super cool. You mentioned creative.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting too. A lot of people, we're Optimum or XK, which is kind of behind IndustrialSage, the video marketing and digital marketing.
Yeah.
People a lot of think, oh well, video and that's creative. These agencies and all that. These tech companies are all really cool, creative. But the reality of it is that in the manufacturing space, there's a ton of creativity.
There really is.
A ton. I remember I was talking with my father-in-law. He works at General Dynamics, and he does motherboard circuitry, power management. He works on some really cool stuff. And I remember I was talking with him, whatever, and he was like, "Well, I just I wish these project managers would get off our back and let us really do some cool creative stuff and be able to come up with." And I started thinking, I was like, "Well, yeah, I guess I didn't think about it that way yet. There's a lot of creativity that goes into it, even though we may not think about it as." It's just different creativity.
Absolutely.
So,
I actually was on a tour in Dalton, Georgia, up north, and
carpet
while I was
capital
there,
of the world.
it was a carpet capital.
Yeah.
We were touring a carpet event, but then afterwards, I met with this young boy. He was maybe 10 or 11 years old, but he was just featured on Shark Tank
for
really? What he manufactures,
that's
cool. He manufactures leg glue, is what it's called.
Leg glue?
Yes. So it's glue that you use to glue together your Legos. And then it's water soluble. So if you want to rebuild it, you just throw it in water. It all breaks down. You can do it again.
That's kind of
and so it was just so interesting. And so I was sitting down talking with him, learning about. He's 10, 11 years old. I'm like, where in the world did you come up with this?
Yeah.
How did you get from the idea to actually doing it?
Yeah.
And he was featured on Shark Tank, which is such a cool show.
That
Love
is
it.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, but the creativity came in his mind. So they had a normal glue. It almost looked like a hair pomade thing, with gel in it. And then they switched into those applesauce container things that are squishy.
Oh yeah.
And
They've got
twist off the top.
My kids they love that.
It. Yeah. So his idea was well, let's not use this what's it called? What's the word? Packaging.
Oh yeah.
Let's not use this packaging. Let's try this and see if it works. And it brought the cost down of their their production. Yes, it was amazing, and it made their inventory skyrocket. The sales were better. And he's 11 years old, so just using creativity, saying, let's use my snack idea to something that we can maybe improve our company with.
That's awesome.
As simple as that, yeah.
Well, I think it's awesome that this 10 or 11-year-old kid coming up with these ideas. Hey, listen, we'll have to check that out. See what's the story behind that, why he wanted to do that. That's super cool. So, what else? What are some other things, maybe some big takeaways that you've gotten over the last year? Like what's, I don't know.
I think the biggest takeaway I've had from learning about the manufacturing industry, I didn't realize how large it was within the state of Georgia in particular. And then just learning about that, when I put my mind to the country, I can't even fathom the amount of products and what the U.S. has to offer and what can be made here. But it's really amazing to see people so passionate about their work and so passionate about keeping the work national, keeping it in the United States, keeping it in Georgia, staying local. It's really amazing. And LaGrange Duracell is a manufacturer there, and I want to say they do like AAA batteries. It was some certain brand.
Specific,
Yes, but they were saying that if you increase the sales of these types of Duracell batteries, even by 10%, it would increase they would grow, I think it was almost like 400 or 500 jobs.
Really?
Yes,
wow.
And just imagine the economic development that could come in with another, at least 400 jobs in that town. So it's just...
That's amazing.
Keeping it statewide, staying local, shopping local, with these brands that are nationally recognized. Like King's Hawaiian Rolls are manufactured in Georgia. Everyone loves some sweet rolls.
Like that?
So good. But so now every time that you go to the store and you throw them in your cart, you know that you're shopping a local Georgia business.
That's awesome.
That has a national recognition. So it's really great.
That's such a great stat, and you're talking about there just in terms of the economic impact of local, and I think that's something that a lot of people just completely gloss over. And it doesn't matter whether you're in Georgia or you're in, another state or whatever. Just the power of buying local and be able to help support that local community. And you hear that support the local community, but what that really actually means, that's a huge stat. That's pretty impressive.
It really is. Yeah. And I love my mom and pop shops also around the state of Georgia. But it's so great to know that when you do buy these brands, and I guess that's a big part of why I came on, is just to raise awareness for Georgians all throughout, to say, well, you might not know this, but while you're eating some kind of chips or whatever it is, while you're driving your Kia down the road, you're supporting Georgians, you're supporting local business. And so it's just making people more aware of the products that they use and where they come from.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. So, well, listen, I've really enjoyed our conversation here. I think this is really, it's super cool, and I just thank you for using your opportunity to shine a light on manufacturing. Because I'm curious, how many other Miss I don't know, other states
titleholders.
Titleholder. Okay, that's the official. How many of them are doing something similar in the manufacturing space, do you think?
I don't know.
Are there
exactly.
Any others?
I wouldn't say, off the top of my head, I don't think anyone else is working within the manufacturing realm. I will say every girl in every state, I'm very, very close with all of the 50 other representatives. They do amazing work with whatever program and platform they're doing. But, this is just the way that I chose to promote Georgia and what's made here, and to be the ambassador to the state. And it truly has been an honor. I have been educated time and time again about this industry, about what it has to offer, about how sexy it can be. It's so cool. It's takes such a high level of education where you can start. There are scholarships in Georgia offered to high school students going into college or secondary education that Georgia will pay for them to go to school if they're majoring in certain majors to increase workforce development, especially within the field of manufacturing. So that's just an honor. Every time I get to speak to a student, they're like, I had no idea. And they're sitting there stressed thinking, okay, well, this is what I can do. I can't afford college. I can't do this. I'm like, well, no, you have this opportunity. Take advantage of it. Use the creativity. Use the skills that you have. Love your passion, and go for it.
That's awesome. No, but but thank you again. Thanks for doing that, because I think it's so needed. It's so important. Like we talked about before, there's such a big challenge. So thank you for using that to be able to take that, shine that light on there, because I know you've had a tremendous impact on not just currently where we are, but having an impact on future generations. And so I think that's awesome. So thank you for doing that.
I'm honored.
And thank you for coming on Industrial-Sage.
Yes, thanks for having me. It was a blast.
We really enjoyed it. So if anybody, I don't know, needs to reach out, you follow you on social media, what are the best ways of...
So I'm on Facebook. My Facebook page is just Miss Georgia.
All right,
Easy enough to find. Yeah. And I'm also on Instagram. I will have access to the official Miss Georgia Instagram account until the next girl wins in 2 weeks. Right, so that's Miss America GA. Okay, and then my personal Instagram is just Annie Jorgensen.
All right. Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, so, a little unconventional episode of Industrial Sage per se, but no, I think the really cool story here, I think it was really important. Like, I wanted to bring on Miss Georgia, or Annie, on because I think, it's such a unique story, and we kind of talked about it towards the end there, that, how many other title holders are doing sort of the same thing, and I just wanted to kind of share Annie's story with everyone here, and I just think that it's awesome that she took this opportunity that she had to be able to really share and shine that light on manufacturing and how great it is, because we do know it's a challenge. We have this workforce development challenge, and so I just wanted to spend some time just to hear and learn a little bit more about Annie, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode on that. So, as always, if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them on the show. You can reach out to us, industrialsage.com/questions. If you're on any of the podcasting stations, we'd love a review. Social media, hey, share the love, be awesome. So we'll catch you next week with another great episode of Industrial Sage. That's it, I'm out. This is Danny, I'm Danny Gonzalez, and I'll see you next week. Bye.